Okay, I'm going to call the
There he is.
meeting to order.
Good morning, Mr. Glennon. Can you hear us?
Yep. Morning, Renee.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Sorry you had to get up so early.
It is bright and early here in California. Or not bright at all, but early here in California.
Okay, I'll call the order, please. Roll call.
Mr. Koch,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here.
Let it also be known, President participating are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, and Mr. Glennon via Zoom, and myself. Absent with notice was Mr. Smith.
Okay, the minutes have been circulated to everybody. Any changes, comments? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So move. Sorry, Bob. I make a motion to approve the minutes of our meeting of the 26th of September 2024. Second.
Mr. Koch? Mr.
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Chairman Lyons?
Yes. For next meeting, what is the date for the next meeting?
Do you want it after the ARPB? You want
Yes.
to keep it so it would be the 21st?
21st.
If you could send an email to remind everybody, would be great.
I will.
Okay, so we're going to move into this discussion. Well, let me stop here for a moment. We've made a lot of progress. We've addressed a lot of different approaches to accomplish the task of trying to minimize massing. And I think we're at a point where we have identified the primary drivers, which would be incentives to build a one-story and disincentives to building two stories. I also want to thank Michael for his Excel worksheet. And it was very well done, Michael.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. I've done probably 1,000, no, not 1,000. Yeah, easily 1,000 Excel worksheets. I don't think I've ever seen one as thoughtful, and the presentation's very clear, so thank you. So Trey, I'm going to hand it over to you, and let's go through what we believe are the, we're at a point where I think we want to finalize what we think should be the recommended changes to the code. So let's go through those key changes.
Sure. If you if you would just like to introduce each one of the individual items, and then we can get started. So I guess number 5, and then the first one, it references the code section. So if you could just read that into the record so we know what we're talking about.
Oh, yes. So on the one-story incentive, that section's 70/71 additional floor area ratio over 33%. So we're looking at adding to that 0.33.
All right. So as everyone knows, the size of a home that you can build is tied to the lot, and you get a 0.33 multiplier over the square footage of your lot for your floor area ratio. So the larger that number is, and Mr. Glennon can speak to how that input can be manipulated in a spreadsheet, so we can get some data as far as what that looks like. And I also did provide him with, and we had worked on incorporating, I believe, 4 different size lots that exist in our potential overlay district. A smaller, what is more of like a typical size, and then a larger one, and how that would impact those 4. So we can go, have Mr. Glennon input some data and show what it is in some of these medium-sized lots now, and what would it be if it was a little bit larger, and how that impacts the square footage.
I agree. Let's do that, but let's go through the 3 points.
Okay, sure.
Let's go through the 6 points, and then we'll, Trey.
Yes.
And then we'll move to how
How that.
those changes translate through this Excel worksheet.
Okay.
Because I think it tells the story very well. So on this first change, we have to agree to some different number than 0.33. In the Excel worksheet, I believe it goes to 0.36.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Any comments?
No.
It's about a 10% increase. And I don't think it's too much. To me, the driver on the size of the change is whether it creates enough incentive. So, I mean, to me, that's the criteria. Now, when you tie it into how we change some covered but unenclosed, I think the combination probably works. So I think the 0.36 is an okay change. I would make an observation that, and I've said this before, I'm sort of not inclined to go much higher than 3.6 because I think our FAR generally for the core district is too large when looking at other comparable communities. So I'm good with 0.36.
Yeah, I think. And this is all about incentives versus disincentives. That's why we put it into two buckets. We decided we were going to do. And that, as you said, it's nearly 10%.
Bill, are you good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think for the record, we are saying that our one-story incentives, section 7071, additional floor area ratio, we're recommending it be increased to 0.36.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yep.
This second point under one-story incentives, section 7070, reduce percentage calculation for covered unenclosed floor area from 100%. And for purposes of discussion, I'm not sure how to express it. Michael, how would you express that change that you've made?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, and I would just echo everything you just said, Paul. Is like, I think obviously what we're trying to do here is find a way to provide a nice incentive for a one-story house while also not allowing, even if you have a one-story house, to just have an explosion in, or like a massive increase in FAR, that even as a one-story house, you're going to say like, oh, wow, that is like that's a huge house that doesn't like feel authentic or feel like it should be on that lot. Because it's, you know, it's bursting at the seams, or just essentially like a square house, maximizing your entirety, you know, of the lot. Like, not that that's a bad thing. I think we don't want to like incentivize it that much. So the uncovered footage is really, I guess the way I would think about it is, it's not, I mean, it is increasing the FAR, but it's also increasing the way the FAR looks. So it's, you know, it's kind of taking, it's mandating additional space, but only in a, you know, in an outdoor format, obviously, or some sort of like outdoor, you know, cover, some sort of like outdoor format, I guess, would be the.
So, and you're currently 100% is included in the calculation, correct? Okay.
That's correct. So in section 7070, we do have everything that counts either 100%. If it is a ceiling higher than 15 feet, it counts as double. So that's sort of like your penalty for something that's very large. And then areas in basements with no exterior exit are counted as 75%. That's just but it's something in the code. So it exists that there's that sliding scale that if it's really just, and it kind of makes sense, it's completely underneath, there's no exterior exit, it's kind of underneath the house, that's going to count for less, and that's really not going to result in an increase in mass. So there would be a figure that we would incorporate into this overlay district that maybe puts it at 90% or 80% or 75%. That does, like Mr. Glennon said, encourage the incorporation of those outdoor spaces without necessarily making it look as massive, because you're not looking at a wall, you're looking at something else. And it also, if they are using, an architect utilizing that sort of benefit, that is a lot of outdoor space that is now directed as part of the main FAR into that outside space. So if they really want to take advantage of it and, increase that, that is going to eat into what, their FAR that is enclosed and air conditioned. So at the end of the day, there is going to be some sort of an offset and sacrifice, like we've seen with the special exception, just in a little bit different format that that is more of an incentive than the 300 square feet, which was kind of an incentive, but you were sacrificing some of your air conditioned space.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah. So I know this is hard to assume a sort of a typical. Let's say a typical application had 500,000, 500 square feet. Covered but unenclosed. Right now, all 500 is included in the calculation.
Correct.
If we go to 80% on this Excel worksheet, that would mean that it would only be 400 would be included, or we would exempt 20%. And I think, again, that seems like a reasonable number. So what do you think is, how much of the exemption would we want to grant? Now it's 100%, so there's no exemption.
There's nothing there, yeah.
Let's do it the way, what's the maximum we give, and then come back from there. Sort of. Let's do the maximum. You say that's crazy. Let's say that's crazy, and then keep coming back instead of walking down.
So let's say the typical house was 5,500 square feet, and that we see, of which, how much of that is covered unenclosed, would you guess?
Well, let's just assume for this exercise that it would be 900, which would be fully utilizing the special exception to get an extra 300. Now, let's put that aside, but let's just say that a project of that size, if they wanted to maximize the FAR, they would have an extra 300 square feet, but 900 of that would be, right?
So it's only 600 that we're looking at changing.
Because of the trade-off.
Right, correct, yes.
Okay, so, and so 20% of 600 is
120.
So that's not a big, it's an incentive.
But it's not.
But again,
it's not
So
gonna
about 200,
attract
a
people.
third.
So,
Yeah.
I agree that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at some of our recent applications before we were kind of pushing back on that special exception, they all had it and they all wanted that extra 300 square feet, and they were willing to compromise. So I think that 100 certainly is not a lot, but if you combine it with the FAR.
So on that trade, they could potentially get another 100. So I know we said 120. They could get another 100 on top of the 300.
Right.
Yep. Internal.
100 square feet.
Because you said they get 300. They're quite happy with that 300.
Correct. Yes.
Do we give them another 100?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's 30%.
No.
And he's after the 300.
Of the 300,
Of the
you're right.
300,
Yeah. I'm just thinking, you're saying they're
Yeah.
quite happy with the 300, so we don't have to give. When I say give away, this
Well,
is
no, it's not that they're happy.
I mean,
They
that's
can't
what they
take
can
it.
get.
they'll take
Yeah.
If you
They'll
give
take
more,
it.
they'll take
Yeah,
more.
that's a good
So
term.
we're gonna give them 400.
Because we're trying to really incentivize them to say, you go down this route, you get that. You go down this route, guess what? It becomes far more.
Let's go to, let's go to not 80, but 70.
Okay.
Michael, what do you think about 70?
Michael frozen.
He's
He's
frozen.
frozen.
Or he's in,
Thinking.
he's in a catatonic state.
He's asleep.
God bless. He fell asleep, God bless.
Yeah,
It's early.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't sound a lot 70 feet, but you say to somebody,
He's not moving.
you've got that extra 70
Yeah,
square feet.
you may need to refresh, Michael.
If you and I are building a house, we'd say, hey, we want it.
You have
I'll
your
go
cell
one
phone?
story.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. That's
Tray,
what we're
Mike.
trying
Do you have a
to
cell
achieve.
tray?
It's nearly like, I'm trying to think of a number
Well,
between
let-
3
let's-
and 5. And they
You
go,
have it?
4. And we go, yeah. It's such a so
Tray?
attractive.
I do,
you know,
yes.
that they go, yeah.
It looks like he's gonna,
In the architect.
trying to read,
Easy.
it looked like he's trying to
Okay.
reboot.
Yeah.
He
You know,
knows.
But it's
do.
Trey said, they grabbed the 300.
By the way, I need to leave by 10 of, I think we'll.
You're driving
I
this,
think-
Paul.
Yeah, no. Well,
You have the power.
except for this.
Yeah, you have the power.
Yeah, I think we should
Yeah.
give them a good size carry.
Yeah, I'm with you though.
Yeah.
So what I would also maybe like to discuss in that vein is eliminating the special exception in the overlay district. If you for the covered unenclosed, if we're already incentivizing them with a reduced number,
Yeah.
that's kind of taken care of, and we would want to eliminate that for the 2 stories because that is just making them larger anyway.
Yeah.
So
So we eliminate it, the special exception,
just as it relates to
To
the
the core.
overlay district.
just to the core.
Were you saying get rid of the, for
Special
1 story and 2 story?
Correct.
Yes.
The 2 story, it would make it look larger generally. And then for the 1 story, you're already incentivizing them with a reduced number.
I'm fine, but just get rid of the special exception
In
in the overlay.
the
Yeah.
overlay.
So they
Yeah.
can't double dip basically.
Exactly. You're already incentivizing them to incorporate outdoor spaces.
Yep.
And you don't want the 2 stories to.
I mean, what we're trying to do is channel
larger.
them down this route to say it's a no-brainer why we shouldn't build a one story.
So if we do that, not that somebody's, who submits an application after the change of code is going to remember that it was 300, but, you know, before we were about to give, they were going to get the special exception of 300 plus another 100 because of the change we made.
Yeah.
They get 400. If we get rid of the 300, now they only get 100, but I guess they won't look to the fact that we used to have 300.
Correct. And they'll also have an incentive with more FAR and other things that will really compensate.
Okay.
And when they draw
I
the
don't
site
like
plan,
these,
they'll
yes.
see it.
Yeah.
Their architect
Yeah.
show them.
I'm in favor of it. So
Yeah.
in the overlay district.
Yep.
And we're going to change the, what is considered, we're going to grant an exemption for 1 story where only 70% of the covered unenclosed is calculated in FAR. Correct?
I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, we're saying that, Trey, am I getting that right?
Correct.
70% is
Only 70%.
percent.
So for every
Versus-
10 feet,
versus-
you're only counting
Sorry,
7.
brain. Sorry, yeah, brain wasn't plugged in. Yep, I understand it.
That's saying what we're thinking.
Yep.
So, Trey, now, hasn't the town commission had some pushback on that 300, that extra 300 for new homes anyway, right?
But across the board, they looked at it across the board. We're focusing.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but all I'm saying is that.
No, sure. Staff has advised that it is, it is frowned upon for new builds. And in a lot of the applications, the applicants have heeded our advice and not included that in applications, which you'll see in some of
So
the,
what we're going to do is change the code to really what is becoming the practice.
correct.
So let's just do that. Good.
Yep.
Okay, let's move to the third incentive for 1 story, and that's going to be section 7074, reduce front setback from 30 feet to In the Excel worksheet, they're proposing 25 feet. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And I think the one-story house that, because it's only one story, it's less imposing, so you can afford to move it forward by 5 feet.
Yeah.
And also that 5 feet gives more available, call it, grass, landscaped area in the back, so you can move it. Because, you know, if you have children, you want the kids to run around or whatever. So I'm fine with that. I think 10's probably too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've reached agreement on what changes we want to make to the one-story incentives.
Mhm.
And now let's go to the two-story regulations, call them disincentives.
Yep.
And it's the first one we're going to look at is section 7073. Decrease the maximum second floor area from 0.5 times the first floor area. Currently, it is 50%, and we're looking at reducing it to 33%. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because, as I think we've seen and we've heard that some recent applications in Blue Water Cove, that's about the size of their square footage. And I think, Trey, you have some illustrations.
Right. So if you would like to look at the packet, it starts with 2913 Blue Water Cove, which is what Chairman Lyons had just mentioned. That second floor area is 18% of the total 5,400 FAR, total of 824. So the next page you can see, and they go in order from lowest percentage to highest. So 3112, lovingly referred to as the Cat Lady House. That's at 32%. That's a little, it's not entirely clear because it is a long structure on the other side. So
the south elevation looks much bigger.
Correct. Yeah.
It
So
covers the whole south elevation.
so the way that this is set on the lot, it is a little deceiving. It is a lot larger than that. Obviously, 1,134 square feet over the 4,400, and that did take advantage of a special exception for additional floor area ratio. The next home is 530 Old School. That is one that has drawn a lot of attention from the community. I think part of that is the finished floor elevation issue, but also they do have almost 1,400 square feet on the second floor, and where it's situated on the lot in general, it is a two-story home that is very close to the front setback and has a lot of green space in the rear. So it does kind of loom over the road in addition to having 36% on the second story. And then finally, 3420 Gulfstream Road, which is right across from the Australian Pines on Gulfstream Road, at 43%. So again, a fairly large percentage of that home, still within the code at 50%, is on the second story, with 1,600 feet on the second floor. Rita Taylor our former clerk, had corresponded with the architect confirming that the side setbacks of the structure met our code, and it did within a foot or two. So that is a home that really does meet our sort of wedding cake tiered side setbacks and second floor FAR, and it doesn't appear to be a design that is in keeping with the massing issue that we're trying to address.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Because 43%, I would have thought it was at least 50%. And so at 43%, it's massive to me. And so the code at 50% obviously doesn't work, in my opinion. And I think going to 30%, I have no problem with,
33?
Yeah.
or 33.
33.
Yeah, 33.
You know, in that area.
I'd rather go to 30%. Michael, thank you for coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but obviously, technology fails you right when you need it.
No, well, of course. Let me just go step back for a moment and advise you that on the one-story incentives, on the 70/70, that's the second one, the reduced percentage of calculation for covered unenclosed floor area, we're going to reduce it to we'll only include 70% of it.
Okay.
So we'll give an exemption on 30%.
Okay.
And Trey recommended that we get rid of the 300 uncovered exemption in the overlay on all houses.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay.
In the core, in the core.
Just in the core.
In the core, well,
In the overlay. Sorry, in the overlay.
and on the reduced front setback, we reduce it from 30 feet to 25 feet.
Okie doke.
Okay, and now we're on decrease the maximum second floor area from 0.5 to some lower number. I think we just went through an illustration. I don't know whether you got what Trey presented.
Renee, did you send him a copy of?
I did not.
Well, we saw the house, maybe across the street from me, is it? No.
I can go do it.
No, it's not.
No,
But the house next to Katie Orthwine on the south of her,
Yep.
that new house.
Yeah, no, we know that house.
That second floor is 43% of the first floor. And our code allows 50, and it looks massive. In the Excel worksheet, you have 33%. I'd like to even go further to 0.30. If you're okay with that. I mean, it's a number that we, it could be 25 or it could be 40, but I like 30.
And Mr. Glenn, I just forwarded you that PowerPoint. It's just 4 pages going from smallest percentage on the second floor to largest percentage, and it uses 4 of the most of the more recently constructed 2-story homes.
And Trey, this is the visual. It's great in terms of showing.
Yeah.
So if this goes forward to the ARPB, the commission,
You can
use
that
this.
as well.
Okay. Picture speaks 1,000 words.
It does. So, everybody okay with 0.30?
It's a recommendation.
I think he's frozen again.
Oh, so no, I think that, can you hear me?
Yeah,
we got you.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the second point. Increase second story setback
Oh,
what's the from
section?
5 feet.
What's the section?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Section 7073.
B.
Increase second story setback by 5 feet. I'm not sure, are we talking about 5 feet on all sides?
So that is just the front setback. We can also talk about the side setbacks, which are also contained in that
So
section.
I'll give you my thoughts and then I'll hand it over to the group. I've previously stated that I'm as equally concerned about setbacks on the side and in the back as I am in the front. Streetscape's one thing, but for people's privacy, shade, flow of air, and so on and so forth. So if we want to increase the setbacks, I would recommend the setbacks be increased on all 4 sides than just the front.
So in working with Mr. Glennon on the spreadsheet, this is obviously not something that we could really quantify as easily as inputting numbers. And it's really about, we have a certain amount of clay. How are we where are we putting that? In talking with Mr. Lyons yesterday, the thought was that if we do decrease the second floor percentage, that's really going to give them less clay to play with. So then where you put it is less impactful than if you have 50% than if you have 30%. So I don't know if this is something that we would want to address. Again, you push it further back, then it's further back on the lot, maybe impacting someone's backyard. You bring in the side setbacks, then all of a sudden it's going to be longer, like what you see at the Canizaro, the cat lady's house. So where it is long and kind of towering over, someone's property in their backyard, rather than it being a large and foreboding structure at the street. So.
I'm torn as to whether we really need to make a change there, because at the end of the day, it's going to be presented first to the ARPB and then the commission. And part of the reason I was thinking we needed something like this is because if you go to Banyan, there's a couple of houses which would be on the west side of Polo, and these houses are on the Cove. That Bill would be looking at these houses, and there's a couple of houses where there's a second story totally over to the west elevation or the east elevation. I think it might have. There's two houses like that, and I don't want to see that happen. But if it gets presented to the ARPB, we just say, well, you're going to have to center it on the house. You can just
put it on one thing. And back those, I don't know, remember those houses? I know the ones you're talking. Some of those might have been added on too.
Yeah.
They weren't originally designed that way. I
Yeah,
can't
actually,
remember. It's way back in the 60s, but.
The Ty's house is like that too. Don't they have?
The Ty was added on, and I think the two on Banyan possibly added on. The one to the east of Joe North Wines.
Right.
The right to the east on the north, south, and the Polo Cove. That was added on. And then they came at one time trying to add on the second floor on the corner of Polo and Gulfstream Road, that nice little cottage type house that we all like. And I guess that was turned down here. Right. Because it doesn't look right. It's a complete add on and it's perfectly square over the garage area.
So I know I'd rather keep it simple. So let's not change that. Unless others feel that we should change it. But if we're going to change it, I would want the change to apply to each of the four sides. I'll go either way.
Well, they're going to have to put it on somewhere in the center of the house. You got to get a staircase, you know.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of leeway to actually get where you're going to put it.
Yeah, where are you going to put it? Is it a kid's room upstairs or is it the master bedroom?
And they're not going to put it, one of the things we try and keep away from is massing on any of the elevations. So the architect is going to say, well, okay, I know it's going to get kicked back because of the massing. Let's give them a little bit of leeway, the architect.
Yeah, so there's no need for this, I don't think. Are we all in agreement?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and the third change in the two-story regulation would apply to section 7000C2. Decrease maximum roof height from 30 feet. I'm in favor of that. Maybe go to 28 feet. Again, we're trying to create disincentives. I think you can still build a beautiful house at 28 feet. And, tray ceilings and stuff, maybe on the second floor, they can still get a portion of the interior ceiling higher. You were referring to different ways.
Yeah, it was centering. Just to clarify it, the roof heights, we're talking the height of the roof. That doesn't include the chimney, the extra 5 feet. Where the structure.
The roof is 30.
And a lot of these roofs, like this one here, this comes to a point,
Yeah.
and this one here, they chop off.
Yeah.
And that's the proper word for it, but it's a
Yeah.
short little flat roof.
Yep.
That brings the house down
Yeah,
considerably.
so, yeah, but we also still, on the roof, we do have a requirement for that it not be flat.
It's a
Yeah,
pitch.
The pitch has got to be, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we should reduce the roof height, I don't know, maybe 27, I don't know, but.
So I'm looking at a recent application just because I had it up. I was forget what the exact purpose was, but it's 588 Banyan, which is the very large property at the end of the street, and their roof height was 28 feet 10 inches. That is a very large property, and they were fine with 28 feet 10 inches.
Oh, the Davis's house.
The Davis's house, yes, sir.
Oh, well, that's, thank you
So,
for
that's-
contributing, because I think that's a good example. It's a beautiful house. I would love to have that house. Yeah, so I have no problem with 28 feet.
Mhm.
Maybe you should go to 24.
No.
No.
You're probably getting carried away.
But the flat roof to the cliff height, the flat roof, you can't have a flat roof, but you can have a slope roof and cut off the point at the top. That's not considered a
So-
flat roof. Everybody does it. I just,
That's correct. So we
Okay.
do allow under our code, I think it's up to
What-
10% of the roof can be flat.
okay.
And it can also, to reduce massing, you can have it flat at what otherwise would be the peak, right? So you
Right,
can,
okay.
you
Yeah,
can,
that's-
so there are other ways to
Because
manage that.
We want that.
Yeah, so I don't, going to 28 feet, I don't think is a reach. I guess the question is, would we even go further?
Mm.
I think you're
I'm
gonna,
not-
no, but one of the things that we've always had back from the architects is how do I get the desire from people to have these vaulted ceilings in their house?
Well, everybody probably wants, it's a 10 foot, it's a just argument, 10
Yeah,
foot
10
on the
foot
front,
And
10 on the
foot,
thing, you're at 20
Have
feet.
they
Now
got-
you got attics, you got
Yeah,
ACs,
and
you
you've got to
got
have a floor space between the two.
between the first and second floor, even if it's poured concrete.
Yeah.
And if it's a wood truss, it's thicker. And that brings the second floor down considerably.
Well,
And you don't want to jeopardize
Essentially, you've
that.
got 8 feet to play with by the time you've got
Oh,
the slab or whatever.
that's like, you know,
Okay, I'm convinced that we shouldn't go greater than 28. So I'll recommend that we change section
Yeah.
7100 C2 from 30 feet to 28 feet.
Yep.
Now, I'd like to go to Michael's Excel worksheet. By the way, Michael, I think it was great. I did see all the different tabs, different size houses, the impact of on the let's talk about FAR in particular, and also I think on FAR we can see that essentially by increasing the FAR and changing the percentage from 100 to 70%, this is only I think 80%.
Yeah, Renee, if you want to, if you can make me the presenter, I can try to pull it out. I know it'd be hard for you guys to see, but I could at least kind of pull up what it looks like with what we just talked about kind of as the updated model. Or I could also just circulate it after the meeting if that's easier.
But I think Michael,
You're now the presenter.
the
Okay,
important thing is on the first worksheet that we have printed out, if you go over to the right side on the second floor FAR calculation, it's the last box on the lower right, you can see that we increased the total FAR of covered and uncovered by 13.3%. And that's based on the 36% from 33. And that's only using 80 versus 70. So it might increase it up to 14%. So I think that bottom line number is that sufficient incentive. I think, am I getting to the right bottom line issue, Michael?
I agree with everything you just said, but maybe are we eliminating the uncovered exception though of 300 feet? Because the 70% and the 300 feet will like offset one another a little bit.
True, but I guess you'd have to compare, but we're taking the 300 away from everybody.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, you're right. So we got the 300 out of it. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to rerun that calculation, but if you took the 300 out, would we still be over 10%?
Yeah, you'd still be what I'm seeing kind of across all of them is you have you have between an 8 to 11% increase in total FAR, including covered and uncovered on the first floor for a one-story house.
Okay. And that seems an incentive to.
Yeah, I think so.
You say to somebody middle ground, 8 to 11, Michael, give them 10%. You've got a 10% increase. That's a nice number.
Mm-hmm.
It gets your attention.
Yeah.
It's not, you've got a 1%, 2%. 10% is a significant.
Makes a statement.
Yeah.
Makes you consider doing it.
Yeah.
I think.
1%.
Yeah, I mean, if we come out at the end of these meetings and say, you've got 2% increase, it's going to be, you really spun your wheels, guys. But likewise, we don't want to turn around and say, guess what, you've got this much. 10% is a significant increase, I think.
Yeah, and we also remember that it is a combo here of, okay, is 10 or 11% enough? Yeah. And then so I'm going to do a two-story. But wait a minute, I only can build up to 30%.
Yeah, on the second floor.
Yeah, that's the number we agreed on. So I think the mosaic is getting us in the right direction.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, just as a footnote, I've said this numerous times. It's amazing number of houses like that are built, new houses, they're one story without these incentives, disincentives. Mm-hmm. I mean, today is another example.
But those are trends they can go
and it's
change.
Interesting that architect looked at how his house fit in the context of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And we always still have that. I mean,
yeah, it's in our code. It says it has to fit in with the surrounding properties.
So I think the changes we're proposing are good. I don't think we need to.
No, I think that this is a great result. I don't feel like anyone is necessarily disincentivized from building a two-story. You're not hitting them with a stick. You're just saying you can absolutely do that. But what this committee has been tasked to do is reduce massing. And with a smaller percentage on the second story, that is exactly what's happening if someone wanted to build a two-story. So I feel like you're accomplishing what you set out to do with that.
You're more polite. I go, massing is created by a second story, period. And so, but I agree with you. I should be a little more gentle with
Michael wanted to. I think Michael wants to say something.
Michael, please.
No, I mean, I think that I'm just echoing, I think what was said. It's like, or what Trey's point earlier about the clay is like, even in a second story house, by allowing everyone to have a little bit more uncovered, by changing the percentage calculation for everybody, even on a second story house, you're kind of changing the clay by taking it off of the first floor, or excuse me, off of the second floor, given how these two changes work together, and kind of pushing it down to a first floor that is bigger and also has more outdoor space, which I don't think will, and limiting the second floor, which I think will frankly probably, I mean, I think it'll make a big difference. I think that's a good.
I agree.
I think that's a good overall result.
Michael, I agree with that. Would you be good enough with these final numbers to circulate? Well, you send it Renee and she'll send us.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I just updated it as I understand it. So it should be ready to go, but maybe I'll send it maybe after this meeting to Trey, and just Trey, if you can just take a look and make sure that you believe that it encompasses everything we just talked about, and then we can circulate it to the group.
Great, we'll do.
I want to thank everybody who has participated in this process, from invited guests, but most particularly the committee. I think it's been a very productive, thoughtful process. And I think we've reached the right balance to accomplish the task of really keeping the unique character of the core district. I'm going to propose that I summarize our recommendation in front of the ARPB in the November meeting. I welcome everyone to come to that meeting. And if you have some questions, it'd be helpful to have you there to, respond and give your thoughts. This is a committee decision, not my decision. I want to remind everybody that besides what we just went over, that in more globally, comprehensively, we've created this overlay district. We also are going to have a provision on this historic designation. So there's really three elements. I guess the overlay is part of, but the three elements to what we've discussed, is that identify each of the things that we've gone over, Trey?
Yes.
Okay. So any other further thoughts?
So then you do not need your November meeting,
Yeah.
right?
So-
You're going to make a
Yeah, I was gonna
recommendation
say-
at the ARPB.
Just for the purpose of housekeeping, I don't know if we want to keep that meeting and have like a joint meeting of the committee and the ARPB, if it'd be easier for
Could we make
the
it the
chairman.
last item on the ARPB meeting, and then if they and basically merge the two meetings together, bring the ad hoc committee into the
Good.
that last item on the ARPB.
Good. But again, thank you. I mean,
Great.
and I think you paid a great service to the community. Michael, thank you for all your help. I mean, I think
Yeah.
this Excel worksheet is
Great.
very helpful. We'll have to figure out whether we could get eyes on. I'm not sure everybody's going to follow your Excel worksheet, but I'll let you and Trey discuss. It might be useful for you to go through it. So let's consider that as part of the.
And Paul, can we make it an item on the ARPB why we're doing it? As in, we usually get motions or whatever, but the intent is that it will be discussed, approved or disapprove, and to move forward to the commission so they can see the pathway. Can you make that on the agenda? That's why we're getting together.
Yes. I mean, it's exactly what.
Yeah. So we just make it a formal point, please.
If there's no other business, that closes the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good timing.
Thanks, everyone.